are now tuned in. The most talked about podcast in the country. DT, unfiltered and uncensored. Now here's your host, DT.
Yo, this your boy DT from DT's Unfiltered, Uncensored. Live everywhere, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and also Twitter. Also, you make sure you follow me on all social media. Go to my Instagram page, that's DT_Unfiltered, Uncensored. Click the link in my bio that will give you all my platforms to follow me at. If you're on my YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Good God Almighty, I'm just stumbling on all the words today. All right, so guys, today we got a recap of what happened at the Georgia High School state finals in Macon. And of course, I got my guys with me. We did the show, a preview of the state state championship, and I got them back on here with me. First, I want to introduce to the show is my man, Joe Hillsman, who is the founder and owner of Total Sports Coverage in the Hillsman Heavy Top 10 in Georgia. Welcome to the show, man.
Appreciate you, man. Glad to have you back, man. Glad that you're trying to do some good stuff and make sure that there are other avenues for high school basketball in Georgia.
All right, and also I got my other main man. He is the founder of Baseline to Sideline. Welcome to the show, Robert Alfonso. Welcome to the show, man.
Man, DT, thanks for having me back here and being able to do this. I love being on the last time with you two guys and looking forward to what we're able to deliver in this recap.
Great, man. Well, I'm glad to get y'all on the show. We gonna get into this because I know probably some people out watching late, and we trying to get ready because I know people want to go to bed, but we want to talk a little bit about what happened. We're gonna recap what happened in Macon this past not weekend, but from Wednesday until Saturday. It was a lot of great games going on. Not no real big surprises in my opinion, besides one game. When we get to that, I give my and because I was a little disappointed. But then also we had a couple of mishaps where we heard about the lights turning off inside Macon Coliseum. When it's an old building, the lights turns off. But all right, so we're gonna get started first. Let's start with 7A first, guys. So we had Cherokee, number 2, 58 against the state champs. Well, now they are 7A. Wheeler, number 1, had 78 points. Cherokee had 58. What did y'all think about this game, guys?
Well, first of all, going into it, Cherokee had all the confidence in the world just based on what they had done the previous round. But sometimes champions are going to do what champions do. And Wheeler has the number 1 player in the country in Isaiah Collier, and weren't about to allow any of that stuff to hamper their journey to pick up ring number 9, as they've done with this last win, and in convincing fashion, as Joe mentioned, when it comes to just what they did throughout the year. Four straight games, and they got them by 20 this time around.
Definitely. Joe, you want to jump in on that?
We always talk about Macon Center Place, and we always talk about the Macon Coliseum, and we talk about the shooting, and we talk about this, but nobody has said Wheeler shot 66% for the game, the highest percentage of the girls and the boys, because their coach has been there. And they got in early foul trouble, which we kind of knew they would. Glad they took their shirts in. But Cherokee had a very good run, and they had a good push. And Cherokee is making good strides. And they've got guys that are being recruited in this town, and they've confirmed that they're recruiting them. Wheeler has been, was, is, and showed they were the best basketball team. I don't know why that's offensive. Cherokee led by 10 at the half in a game that happened in December. Can we talk about how Cherokee got 7 foul calls in the semifinal and got 2 guys fouled? Listen, Cherokee played good. Coach V does a good job. When it was Cherokee and Wheeler, it's chalk. Like, Wheeler's the better basketball team. And I think that we have an issue in this state about talking about who's better. We want to say this kid did that and this. Listen, the starting 5 at Cherokee is very good. And they played very good basketball. And they used what they did, and that got them to 7A, to the finals. They beat a very good quality Carrollton team. They beat a Parkview team. They came out of the weakest bracket. So when you have a weak bracket as good as Cherokee is, okay. And then they got help in the semifinal game. Wheeler was the better basketball team. Wheeler played the weakest state championship game of any of the national people, and they won't tell you this. I will. Wheeler won by 20, as they should have. Wheeler was better, and they shot the ball at a 66% clip in Macon.
Well, and another thing to go along with that 66% clip, when the Wildcats are in transition, tough team to beat. 19 assists, in comparison to, again, you have the best player in the country leading that team, pushing the ball. You got Arrington running down the middle, finishing in transition. They had 5 guys in double figures. Again, you talk about the shooting. Wheeler, which isn't necessarily known for his three-point shooting, was 9 of 18, whereas Cherokee, who is known for its shooting, was 5 for 21 from the three-point line. So, I mean, that significant difference, to go to your point, when they end the first half at 71% shooting from the field, meaning Wheeler, that just tells me it's a recipe for them to be able to go ahead and finish what they were pursuing all year.
Wheeler did what a lot of people won't acknowledge. They made Cherokee uncomfortable in a gym that neither one of them have played. Oh, wait, Wheeler has played down there. They made Cherokee uncomfortable. Cherokee didn't shoot the ball well, but that was because of the defense, the rotation, the switching, even after the early fouls. And to shoot 66% in that gym and not be a shooting team, 5 players in double figures, 5 players that affected and impacted the game, I'm not taking anything away from Cherokee. I think Cherokee is in a very good spot. I think Coach Vayman is doing a better job, and in some circles is underrated, and in some circles is overstated. Let him build. Let him do what he does. They're just not on Wheeler's level, as is nobody in Georgia, and that's just the fact.
So I got a question. Let's look at this. Who was the standout player for you on Cherokee in that game?
Lawrence Sanford.
Okay. What about you, Alfonso? Who you think stood out on Cherokee?
I mean, I like Destin Hart, but the guy who stood out for me was just Cameron Pope, just trying to compete with an Isaiah Collier and, maximize everything he could. Just wasn't able to get through it.
And as far as Wheeler, who was the standout player from Wheeler? Because I know Isaiah.
You're asking that question?
Well, sometimes it could be sometimes it's not always Batman. It could be Robin that stands out in the game.
Well, what if it's Superman?
Yeah, because Batman might be Arrington.
Batman's second place. Robin is third. Spider-Man is fourth. Superman is Isaiah Collier, bro.
Okay.
He got 2 job fouls in the first 2 minutes, and they thought that he couldn't play around foul trouble. To me, that was the
Well,
most impressive player this weekend that played around the tight whistles that always happen in Macon. I always warn people, look for this, look. They don't believe me till they get in them games, but Isaiah Collier was the only one that got tight whistles. Yeah, and won by 20.
and it caps off a phenomenal week for him in terms of being named National Player of the Year by
As he
Naismith
is
and
rightly so is.
correct, and many more people from across the country. But more importantly, on a personal note for him and a lot of those kids on the Wheeler staff, as well as the team, is that they finalized their mantra, which was live like Khalil, and it was someone who obviously was a brother to him, or like his brother, and he was able to, you could see the emotions come out of him at the end of that game.
Yeah, the emotion was there, man. A lot of people won't agree with this, and a lot of people will say that people boast the number one player. And look, DeJuan Wagner and his team, what happened to him, people in Georgia can't tell you about that. What happened at Simeon and what happened at Morgan Park and Kenwood in Chicago, they can't tell you about that. They can't tell you about what West Ranch did in the CIFA. They can't tell you that because they don't get out. Isaiah Collier has been and it is the best point guard, and he plays the game that way. And the head coach loves a point guard that's an extension. And Shep did a wonderful job in the quarterfinals and the semifinals of making sure they did what they had to do. The head coach wasn't there, but the extension of the head coach was there. Nobody's going to talk about that. I'm going to say it. And if I sound a little aggressive tonight or defensive, it's because it's basketball. If you stay true to basketball, you're okay. When you push other things, that's when you get blowback from me.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right, man. Well, let's move on to 6A. Well, congratulations, Isaiah. As I told everybody, when everybody kept saying who's going to win the guy, I had no doubt. Like I told y'all last week that I felt like Grayson didn't have a chance of beating Wheeler. I felt like Wheeler was going to win it all this year. I knew Isaiah wanted to walk out there with a ring on his senior year. And, of course, they did it for the coach's son, too. So that's another caveat onto it as well.
Hey, Fonzo. Who went wire to wire in the Hillsman Heavy?
Wire to wire Hillsman Heavy was Wheeler. There was and listen, I'm going to say this. They were concerned, and of course, Coach Thompson, who does a great job, was concerned about not only their schedule, just understanding how to get that team to come together, right? And
Exactly.
they talked about, well, I talked about him, and Joel and I had a conversation. He'd be like, well, what if we lose here? You're still number one. What if we lose this? You're still number one. You're still the best team in Georgia. It's got nothing to do solely with out-of-state stuff. It's strictly that you have the best group of kids individually as well as collectively to put together and win a state championship. Had they not won, for example, had they not gotten past a Grayson, which many people who were at that Georgia State arena, nice arena, by the way, would have stated.
Hold on. Georgia State Convocation Center.
Correct. Convocation Center. Pardon
I'm tired of getting calls about that.
Convocation Center.
Georgia State Arena is the old
Yes,
place.
the old spot. You got it. Convocation Center. A lot of people felt Grayson had a chance to be the only team in Georgia this year to beat them. They still haven't. And that's what we were trying to explain to Coach Thompson at the beginning of the year. Again, he's a coach. He's gonna play close to the vest. We get it. Neither one of us was pressing him on anything, but we just kept saying, yo, you're the best team. Like we know it. And a monkey wrench was trying to be thrown in his direction, but they managed to survive due to the great leadership that he left and preparation he left not only for his team but for his staff and allow Coach Shep to be able to do what he did on the sideline.
I'm glad that Alfonso finished with that, and I'll move on. I'll just say this. Very few teams lose their head coach in the middle of a deep playoff run and still win. That's a testament to the program that Coach Thompson has built. He's got 5 titles, 2 at Green Forest. Those weren't good enough, and now the 3 at Wheeler. And, sometimes people just have to understand it's just about the basketball.
Mm-hmm. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to 6A. We have Lee County. They finished with 42 versus Alexander with 64. Seemed like a no contest match right here. I'm gonna let you start off with this, Joel. What are your thoughts on this game?
Hey, Lee County Coach Davis, listen. Again, great story. I'm not here for the stories. I'm here for the basketball. Alexander was the better basketball team. I was actually shocked that Lanier didn't beat Lee County, but the way the Alexander Etowah game went, okay, so it's Alexander Lee. Alexander's supposed to win. They shot the basketball very well. They've been there, and they're advantageous because Lee has some players, but those players are still blooming and growing. And Coach Davis has done a wonderful job of incorporating the small town. Where you're 6A, that ain't that small. Mantra. But Alexander was supposed to win the basketball game, and Alexander won the basketball game. And if it wasn't for their shooting in the second half and a couple of live ball turnovers that got them going, that's what really did it. I'm happy for Coach Slate, 500 wins and a state championship in the same season. They did what they were supposed to do. Lee County got as far as they got further than they weren't supposed to beat Lanier. They beat Lanier. They weren't supposed to beat Lanier. They did. And Alexander went ahead and took care of business and won 6A. And all you can do is play who's in front of you. And Coach Slate has battled and battled and battled. His staff has battled and battled and battled. And when you look at it, they have a respectable enough schedule where, you know what, they can be 6A. And, now you got to come play them.
Well, everything I'm going to just co-sign everything that Joel said. And the one thing I'm going to mention is too much Brandon Liu. All right. Brandon is a force at 6'7". Okay. Mobile. And he demonstrated every part of his game with 28 points and 10 and 12 rebounds, who's going to have an exceptional summer. Mark my words here. He's going to have an exceptional summer. So he was too much. And then, as Joel mentioned, the defense too, because people fail to realize that Alexander's a solid defensive squad. And from the time that I've seen them early in the summer during the live period for the high school teams up until the championship game, this is a team that is going to guard you from the time that you step on the floor to the very last whistle. And they will do their best job. And here's the one thing. Lee County had talked about their leader being DJ Taylor, a point guard who was leading the country in assists. And the glaring stat for me, we could talk about shooting, we could talk about all those things, and those are things that are adjustments.
No, this is it.
But we're talking about, Taylor, who finished the night with single-digit assists.
I put gas in it.
So those are the things that we certainly have to look at it on how Alexander was able to achieve this success.
So Jump into this game real quick because looking at the score, it seemed like it wasn't a close game. Was it close any time throughout the game besides the beginning of the game? But was it close?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. The game was tied in the third quarter, 33-33. It was a nip and tuck game, first, second half, and even after halftime. And Fonzo mentioned Alexander's defense. Alexander was the longest team that Lee had seen. And if you think that I'm just saying that, go back and watch the game and look at every game that Lee played. They had not seen a longer defense. But that was Alexander's strength the entire day. They had length.
And the entire season, for that matter. I mean, no matter what position that they were at, especially with their starting five, you put them in a zone, you put them in a full court press, you put them in a half court set.
Yes,
they are long, wiry young men who are going to cause havoc in the passing lanes.
Just go on.
Which is exactly why
I'm gonna be on this for another
Lee County was struggled in being able to get some sort of flow the moment that Alexander was able to truly exert their dominance with their length.
I'm just trying to make it there.
Like even someone said the alley-oop Braden Lou caught from out of bounds. That was
perfect. That was an absolutely perfect play.
That was a turning point of the game right there for both teams, because you could almost feel the excitement of it was going back and forth, taken out of the sails of Lee County, and you could feel that Alexander was getting their swagger back and were able to really establish their defense and be able to do what they have to do.
Okay. So y'all said so it was a tie game in the third quarter. So what it seems like, and it could have been, I'm asking this because I didn't get to see the game. Alexander defense was that good? Were they forcing Lee County to take bad shots, or was it getting a lot of turnovers happening? What was happening?
Alexander outscored them 20-9 in the third quarter. Alexander forced Lee County into 15 turnovers. They scored 19 points off of them.
Okay.
But conversely, Lee County had the better ratio of points off of turnover. Lee had 10 points off of turnovers, and Alexander had 11. So that's what it was. It was a couple buckets, 4-0 spurt, 6-0 run. Now the 6-0 run turned into an 8-0 run. Then you call a timeout. And then what you do, ATO, after the timeout. Those are the things that make basketball games go well. And Lee did not shoot the three very well. They shot 13%. Yeah. Now, Alexander lives by the three, but they only shot 27%, but they shot 42% overall. Those things, when you're in a tie game, once you get that 4-0 spurt, 6-0 run, once you're able to get breathing room, then you just do what you do from there and you smother them. And that's what Alexander did in that third quarter. That's what I saw.
Spot on.
Before we jump over to 5A, do y'all, most of the top players on the team, were they seniors or juniors for the most part?
Alexander's best player is coming back next year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you see them possibly being back in state? Possibly. Is it?
They lose a lot.
They lose.
They lose a lot. They're gonna have their best player on paper back.
Sure. They lose a lot. I mean, but I'm not. Anything can happen between now and the tip-off of the actual school season.
Because the reason I ask that, because I know it's a lot of times when you see these schools, they team be good and they'll make it to state, then the starting five is probably one senior and four juniors, and they that good. And a lot of juniors are good, so most of those juniors are coming back. So it's a possibility you could see them repeat. That's what.
Well,
Okay,
well,
so this
well,
is what I know about Alexander. Alexander's got one of the most lethal shooters in the state, Ethan Miller. If he's used accordingly with Braden Lou, they will still be in the mix. If Ethan Miller is not used accordingly, and if other things factor into other things, but Ethan Miller is going to be one of the best shooters that you know in Georgia. He is going to be one of the hardest working players, but he's not going to care about if you pat him on the back or not. He's going to care about what he does between those lines against who you put in front of him. And he's a preparation guy. He's an outstanding shooter. Left block, right wing, left wing, 2 dribble, 1 dribble. He's a shooter. If he and Braden Lou are able to build a chemistry, a firm chemistry, then Alexander is in the conversation next year. If Ethan Miller is not used basketball-wise, they're just going to ride Braden Lou.
Gotcha. All right, let's move on. You had something to say, Alfonso?
Yeah. Just one thing. The one thing I don't want to miss out, and I'm not saying they're going to be there, but I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do next year is Lee County, because they lose a lot of guys, but they also have a lot of guys who will be playing, who played in this game or who are part of this run that are sophomores who are going to be thrown into the junior mix. Again, not saying that they'll be back here again, but I'm just intrigued to see what their run will look like next year.
I like Josiah. I do. Lee County got to schedule better, man.
Now, look, it happens.
I understand it, but they got to schedule better.
All right, let's move on to 5A, gentlemen. So we had number 1 Kells 61, number 1 Eagles Landing 53. So congratulations to the boys, Kel. I know they're very proud, very excited about pulling out, winning that. I think I had predicted Eagles Landing to take this, but of course it's a prediction. So let's jump into this game real quick. I'm gonna let you start out with you.
Hold on. I got salt and pepper. I can eat it. I can eat the crow. I thought Eagles Landing was going to be the better basketball team. I thought Eagles Landing was going to win. I like Kale. I respect Kale. But once Peyton Marshall got in early foul trouble, I knew the advantage was swaying to Kale because he was going to be rested. At Eagles Landing, that game showed you a little bit of both teams, and Kale flexed their muscle in the fourth quarter. So I'll eat the crow on that. I got no problem eating that. I still will take Eagles Landing anywhere in the country with me, though.
Look, Eagles Landing played an exceptional game, and what I don't want to miss, which is why I'm going to address it right now.
No, they didn't, Fonzo. No, they didn't. Who helped David Thomas in that game?
Well, that's what I was going to address is I want to point out David Thomas's effort. David Thomas is going to be playing right down the street from the Macon Centerplex. And he showed all those Mercer fans, they're faithful, and everybody in Macon, make sure you get tickets next year because that young man is going to be a force to be reckoned with who's going to put in some time to work. I mean, he didn't have any help. You're 100% correct. Didn't have the consistent help, throughout the year. What it could have been, because even when Peyton Marshall went out, while you mentioned that you felt the momentum swinging towards Kell's way, I started seeing other players from Kell step up. Obviously you have CJ Brown, who's been, stirring that drink all season for the Longhorns and being the catalyst and put together a 22-point performance and shot the ball extremely, 50% from the field. But then the one person who probably doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion, is Cannon Richards. Cannon Richards played a solid game in the absence of Peyton Marshall throughout the night.
Was it a different game though?
In what sense? Like different speed wise, or calls, or I mean, because it varied. Because again, when you have a Peyton Marshall, they're not. When I say they, Kel is not as fast going up and down the floor. You know, they are fast, but sometimes, you know, some people don't want to leave the semi truck parked. You know what I mean? The big fella got to get fed. Okay. And like you pointed out, when he came into the fourth quarter, he was rested. You know, and at that point, again, Eagles Landing had a chance to extend some of their lead and didn't, because David Thomas didn't have enough help.
You're right. And even Peyton played in that third quarter when the Eagles Landing made their run. That's why it's a different game. Peyton had enough help.
Sure.
David Thomas didn't have enough help. Clark Maston did not step up and take over. Even late when it was a 2 or 3 possession game, he gets the ball on the wing and he quickly plays hot potato. He didn't step up. And I feel like if he was a little bit more assertive and directed a little bit more, it could be a different game. Ty Redmond came off the bench, got the last field goal, and gave them the lead 51-50. A timeout after the make. I hate timeouts after the make. And Eagles Landing never scored another field goal after that. Ty Redmond will be back next year. Maston didn't help Thomas. And I know he's an engineer. He didn't help them on the biggest stage in the biggest moments. Learning, growing. He'll be better next year.
So, same question I asked y'all before. On Kel, I know Peyton got one more year. What about the other starters?
The core is back.
Yeah, the core is back, because you got Jalen Cologne, who didn't shoot the ball well at all, but he's one of the better shooters in the state. And even at one point this year had 12 3-pointers for Kelso. He'll be back. CJ Brown, their point guard, will be back. Cannon Richards will be back. So those guys the core, as Joe mentioned, they'll be back. And they'll be back looking to not only repeat, but they anticipate, obviously, the bullseye, the proverbial bullseye being on their back, especially since, right now you can call that part of Cobb County double title town, as the girls have won the same weekend as they did.
That was very impressive. I seen that.
See, that's what fun though. That's how he makes it fun, man. He plays with it. Hey, shout out Andrew Bailey. That's all I got. Yeah.
So, what about Eagles Landing? Most of their players returning?
Eagles Landing will be in a very good situation next year. I mentioned Ty Redmond because he's been in the Eagles Landing program. Clark Maxton is going to have to do them. Kenny Brayboy is gone. Kenny Brayboy had a very good game. But there's a lot of things. Excuse me, not things. There are a lot of players that have been in the Eagles Landing system, and they get a lot more attention that we talk about. And between now and June, they'll be developed, and you'll see some of it in June, and then they'll develop from July to October. Eagles Landing is still going to be a very, very competitive basketball team, and they're going to be a very, very competitive basketball program. They aren't going to have names that everybody's talking about and writing about. I've been respectfully asked not to use those names. I know the names. I could use the names on this show, but they're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. Eagles Landing is in very good shape.
Absolutely.
So I can see both of these teams still in conversation as for
absolutely. Even right now, these two teams are still, if Kel remains where they are and Eagles Landing kind of do what they do, they still could match up for a rematch next year. And there's no disrespect to Chapel Hill. There's no disrespect to Hiram, Jones County, Dutchtown, Union Grove. But right now, Eagles Landing and Cale are the class of 5A. That's just the basketball of it. But Cale has to clean up some things, and they've got to be able to do some things that make you say they're better. Mm-hmm. They beat Eagles Landing, but Eagles Landing, they're going to do some things that make you think they're better. So, and you know, teams that make 1, 2, 3 state title games, they're doing something right. It's hard to win in Georgia. It's hard to win in Macon. Eagles Landing has been to the state title game 3 times. They're 1-2 in the last 3 years. But you've got to acknowledge they know how to get teams ready when it's time to be there. And until we acknowledge the basketball of it, that's what it's going to be. Eagles Landing is going to be back. Cale is going to be back. And I think both of those 2 teams very well could rematch again in what will be the final year of 7 classifications in Georgia.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's jump on to 4A. So we have Pace, number 2 in the region, but number 2 in 4A. No, number 2. Was it number 2 in 4A? I could be wrong. Number 2 in their region. They had 66, and we have Fayette County, number 1. I was going.
Okay, I can do it too.
I was a little confused. I didn't know what I thought.
Listen.
I mean, you can be confused, DT. You can lose count.
Yes, and
that's why Alfonso was helping you out. You can lose count.
Listen, it's Sherman White's 10th ring. The other one for the thumb.
Oh, okay.
The other thumb.
The other thumb, exactly.
The other thumb.
The other thumb. Here we go.
We want to be diplomatic. The other thumb.
The other thumb. First of all, one thing that Joel and I had talked even off the air, and even Joel mentioned it, is just was going to be the chess match and the matchups. And the one thing we both immediately noticed looking at the game was Pace, North Sherman White was going to play with this thing. They went to it immediately. They put best on best, like we like to talk about in other sports. You put your ones versus your ones. And he put his best player against their best player and said, okay, everybody else is going to have to play. And the one thing that Khalil Green showed, he showed his ability of a lot of the recognitions that he's been getting, and he showed his ability to play defense, which is ironically what I found even more interesting is after Pace won their state championship, Coach White dropped his 7th DVD online about defensive strategies. It's almost like a record.
I found that very coincidental.
That was classic. I mean, whether he did it intentionally or not, I don't care. It was classic. It was like a rap artist being like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and go into this rap battle, and I'm going to just throw some verses out here. And then next, the next morning you wake up and it's a top 10 hit because they got a whole album dropping out.
I got you one better. You did the same thing in the club one night, and then the next night you let everybody know this is what we've been working on.
Absolutely.
Full disclosure, I'm not in this business, but for this, but 2 minutes at the 6-minute mark of the first quarter, I text Alfonso and I said, "Oh, Charm is with it." And he texted me back and he said, "Oh, you see it?" And I talked about how this would be the best game of all of the boys. It wasn't. Sherman White decided, we're going to shut that down right now. And he did. And RJ Kennedy didn't show up. He shot 2 of 10 from the field. He was very pedestrian. He was very passive. And in a state championship game where you're the guy, he did not show up. I know he's a better player than what he is. And I'm still an RJ Kennedy fan. But if you know me, I like killers, and I like them when it's ball on the line. And 2 minutes into the ball game, Norman White showed you, nah, that ain't happening.
Absolutely. I mean, he made sure to let his guys know they've been working on it all week, all season, and obviously they were the first set of games. You know, they didn't have until Friday to prepare, because I'd hate to have seen what he would have had prepared had they gone into Friday and into Saturday having to play. I mean, they played Wednesday night, and they just went to work.
And I like that you brought up what you talked about KJ Green, because KJ Green played very well. Now, on the flip side, Fayette County, they haven't been the strongest defensive team, but in that state championship game, their defense was very porous. Their defense was bad. And KJ, he exploited that. He played below the foul line. He was credited with 3 assists, but he also had 3 hockey assists, which I think that now needs to be a stat in basketball, or at least something that's talked about more than it is, because 3 hockey assists still accounts for at least 6 points.
Sure.
And when you're dissecting the defense, he got below the foul line in the second quarter after the tie game, and it opened everything else up. And Alfonso, I don't know about you, and Toby came off the bench and he tried to match LJ, but LJ had a head start. But I think Kyle Green, the way he played against Fayette County, now I'm gonna say Fayette has not been the best defensive team, but they played even below what they've defensively played throughout the season. That's the best game I've seen KJ Green play, period. And I've watched him for 4 years.
No doubt. Look, the young man was phenomenal. I mean, but even more impressive again, because he's got the ball in his hands, along with Eric Chatfield. You know, they both again were able to feed off of one another. But the fact that LJ, as you mentioned, LJ got a head start. LJ was playing a game where he showed again why coaches have come looking and checking him out, because he demonstrated the ability to play inside, to play active, and to be a catalyst in that defensive pressure as well as in the defense opportunity. There was no, I mean, I know there was no answer for KJ, but there was certainly no answer for LJ Moore throughout the evening.
Yeah, and just the core group for Fayette County didn't show up. Kennedy didn't show up. Gillespie didn't show up. Van Dorn didn't show up. Toby played well, and Robert Hurst played well. But at the end of the day, in a state championship setting, you got to show up. And RJ's still a good guy, but he just didn't show up. And a lot of that was Pace's defense. Fayette has a very good program, very good coach, but at the 2-minute mark, 6 minutes to go in the first quarter, once you saw what Pace was doing, yeah, it was going to be a tough road to climb. And that's what they did. They just made Fayette fight and claw. And Pace was the better basketball team, and they won the ball game. But, you know, I know that Fayette has something coming back, and they'll learn from this. And Pace has something coming back, and they'll build from this. So might not be the last time.
Certainly not.
But I eat my crow because I took Fayette. I will eat it, and I will eat it with no salt and pepper or no barbecue sauce.
And let me add this. Let me add this, which was not reported by anyone. Not only was this 10th championship trophy for Coach White, but it was also
it was.
But it was also win number 498. Okay,
498.
Yes, sir.
So where's the
498.
second game of the season next year?
Listen, we'll all be looking forward to seeing when that schedule drops. Because
Is
for
it
all
in
we know,
Australia?
it could be for all we know.
I
Listen,
mean, they played in London.
They played
I
in
mean,
London
Australia.
against Christ the King, and
Yeah, but see, I say Australia because once you play in America, you go to Europe, then you have to go to Australia because they play good ball over there too.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
where's the second game going to be?
We'll have to wait and see.
All right. Donuts on me at Krispy Kreme. It's going to be at Hoopsgiving.
I'm sure it will be.
No Dunkin' Donuts. Okay.
No, because Krispy Kreme has the hot sign.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I don't like
No free sponsorship here. What's the dust up with Krispy Kreme, DT?
I ain't a fan of Krispy Kreme. I ain't a fan of
Because-
donuts, period. I'm not a fan of donuts, period, to be honest. But I like munchkins. I like the lower. I'm fine. I like those. But no, I'm not a really donut fan. So
Okay. Your bagels?
raisin, yeah, cinnamon raisin, baby. Yeah, I take those. Yeah.
See, I'm not a cinnamon raisin guy.
Yeah, see, I'm not surprised. But you like you probably like the plain bagel with cream cheese on it.
Post Pace and Fayette County though.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Can y'all see them being in the conversation
Certainly.
this year?
Next
Certainly.
year?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Listen, Pace is they're going to be better. Fayette is going to have to do a little work, a little molding, but Fayette is, they're going to be an Elite Eight, Final Four, semifinal team next year. Listen, let me say this. Let me say this. All this South Side, North Side. Listen, Coach Flynn just coaches. He's allowed me into his practices. He's allowed me into his games. It's not easy winning when you put together what Coach Flynn does.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked with Coach Flynn after the game. He said, we'll be back. He knows that he hasn't won a state championship, but he knows his name has to come up in conversation. Coach White has the championships and has the pedigree. And there's some people that are about the basketball. And Coach Flynn is one of them guys. And Coach Pace is one of them guys. Coach White is one of those guys. Both of those teams are going to be back. Next year, right now, Pace is better than Fayette. I don't know if what Fayette has is going to be state championship game material. I know they're going to be second round, third round, but they continue to fight and get over the hump. But the defense has to improve for Fayette County to improve.
Absolutely.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on to 3A, which the one I was very disappointed with. This game I was very disappointed.
You're disappointed with.
Yeah, Sandy Creek finished 66 points versus City Grove with 38.
You disappointed in this? Hold on. Why you and Alfonso disappointed in this one?
We both took Cedar Grove.
Huh?
We both took Cedar Grove.
Yeah. And I told you I wanted City Grove. I was hoping to get the revenge from the state football playoff championship. So I said, hey, let's bounce back. Come on, guys. I know they beat y'all 3 times, but y'all go, you get that game 4. But I guess Sandy Creek was too much for them. Okay, this game didn't look close.
Yeah, no. See, what happens is they tell you to bet with the facts and not your heart.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
I love Cedar Grove. Cedar Grove is going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sandy Creek just had a little more. And they
Absolutely.
had a little more all year. And I can talk on this because that's the only game that I got on Fonzo. But I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm not going to rub it in.
Sound like somebody rubbing it in.
the difference of the game, if you were watching basketball, Cedar Grove led 14-13 at the end of the first quarter. But the last 90 seconds of the first quarter kind of told you what was going to happen in the first 3 minutes of the second quarter. And once Cedar Grove had 3 trips and didn't score, you saw what teams that want to win a championship do. And Sandy Creek said, okay, we're not going to let you score. And they didn't. And I know that that's probably one of the first times that in a state championship series, no one has ever scored a point in the state finals. I'm almost willing to say I'm 99.9% correct, because you're in the state finals. You're supposed to score, and they didn't score. But I had challenged Micah. Micah stepped up when it mattered the most, and he made sure Sandy Creek did what they had to do to win the basketball game. And PJ Green did what his ump taught him how to do: make big shots, make them off the wing, and make them when they think they're going to make a run. And they shot the basketball very well. And Coach Nickerson did a very good job. But Cedar Grove still, good story, good effort. They weren't supposed to be there. They weren't. Nobody pegged them in 3A. But Sandy Creek was the better team.
DT actually said he pegged them to get there.
He pegged Cedar Grove to get what? Did you do it in October?
No, I'm just messing with you, man. I just want
Look. Let me tell you when I knew Cedar Grove was for real. Shameless plug. They lost by 5 to Etowah in the Georgia Interstate Classic, and Jalen Aside didn't play.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I knew, wait, they played them that well without that guard. That's when I knew Cedar Grove they're gonna have to shore up some things. They're gonna have to work on their defensive switches, and they're gonna have to work on, if the ball doesn't go through the basket, to get back and defend and stay up. And that showed in that second quarter. And Sandy Creek took advantage of it and ran them up right up out of the gym.
Well, the one thing that I immediately saw, yeah.
Before you jump in, Joe, did you go to the City Grove versus Miller Grove game? I mean, not Miller Grove, City Grove versus Heritage game. I think that's my first time. I think you were baseline. I'm just asking. Okay.
Yes, I was at that game.
Huh? Oh, so now I thought you look familiar now. So I remember.
Yeah,
Okay.
I sat far underneath the basket, and when the game was over, I cut out. But yes, I was at that game.
You were literally under the basket. No, I'm just kidding. But go ahead.
No,
I sat under the basket, but I was still sideline. I wasn't under the basket with a camera. I was. Yes, because I wanted to see the Heritage guys, and I wanted to see what Cedar Grove was going to put at them. So yes, I was. Yeah,
I was at that game. That's why I knew you were from me. I was at that game. Okay, my bad. Go ahead.
No, you're good. What I'm going to say is what I got out of that game, what I got out of that second quarter was, and Joel touched upon it, defensive switches, effort, all these things, and again, but the one thing that I got out of it, and I actually texted to Joel, is an experienced team versus an inexperienced team. And when I say experienced, not that, I mean, granted, Sandy Creek has been there before. They know what it takes to get to that journey, and they understand, even though prior to they've come back empty-handed, they knew that, okay, they had the better player in Micah Smith. They had a better situation in executing their stuff, but this was truly an inexperienced team on the other end. And this is not to take anything away from Sandy Creek by no means. But it just the inexperience, and it showed in that second quarter.
No, I understand what you mean. It was the inexperience of Jalen Aside and Darius Reynolds and CJ being there.
Right.
That they hadn't been there. They hadn't, their senior season, they got pushed and they played kind of everywhere. Manny's the freshman. So Manny got that. And yes, that was a lot of what it had to do with, but I'm not going to take anything away from Cedar Grove. They've just got to learn how to, and I don't want to use the cliche crack the code. They just got to learn how sometimes you can't bottle it up in 1 year. Those guys need to experience that as sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And I think with the people that are there now, they will do that if allowed.
So, my question is, do you see these two teams in conversation for a return?
Yes.
Like Joe said, if the staff at Cedar Grove is allowed to coach those kids and put them in situations to be successful, those players will be right back at it without question.
Okay.
Yeah, both of these teams are contenders for 3A again next year. Right along in the conversation with Cross Creek, right along in the conversation with Douglas. Yes, how they retool and how they feel some positions will be very interesting. But yes, Cedar Grove. Cedar Grove will be a relevant basketball program next season.
Absolutely.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on to 2A. And this is probably the highest score game of all the games played down in Macon.
This was the best game.
Let me go ahead and give them a standing ovation right now.
Yeah, both of them. I'm with you. Absolutely.
Before, was this one of the games when the light turned off on?
This
is one of two, but
okay. Listen, all venue questions, please direct towards baseline to sideline. I'm not answering venue questions. Okay.
Look, I will say this
because I know why the venue is the venue.
No, but listen, I will say this: the lights went out in all tongue in cheek, but in all seriousness, because both teams were shooting the lights out in that place.
In that case, yes, that's a fact.
You know what I mean? Both teams were playing at an impressive clip, and
yes,
and certainly both teams showed. It's almost as if the whole mystique of, hey, you can't shoot in an unfamiliar venue was thrown out the window in that game. Quick. Yeah, and it went out quick. because Providence Christian and Westside Augusta both showed that, hey, we're going to play. And when they went into overtime, it was fun to watch. It's almost like, and I hate the sound is I didn't want the game to end. Like if they could still keep playing that game because none of those teams were willing to give up.
But you know what, Alfonso, and let me know this because I agree with what you say. But Providence came down and made a 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then Westside come back and make an 18-footer.
Mm-hmm.
And Providence drives and gets a lay. And then Westside comes back and hits a 3. And it was the only game that was allowed to have a flow.
Mm-hmm.
Made baskets do that, but it just felt like, okay, I know what you can do. I know what you can do. Watch this. It felt like I raise you one, I raise you another. That's what it felt like. And that is missing in basketball. Right now, if I could schedule Providence and Westside again in November, I think they would play that.
I believe so because both teams got something out of that game. And sometimes you play games that you don't get anything out of, whether you win, whether you lose, and when I say you don't get anything down, of course, you'll grab something, but both of those teams felt contested. Both of those teams felt like they met a formidable opponent who was gonna basically, they were punching each other one punch after another, one punch
punch
after
counter
another.
punch.
No question. And it was, and I'll be honest with you, one of the things that immediately you talked about the flow of the game and the intensity of the game is there was a scramble in front of Providence bench. And then all of a sudden it was a foul against Providence. And then a technical was called right after the foul was called. And I was, and I immediately yelled at the TV like, no, don't get involved. And then, of course, I'm not in that situation as an official, but I'm sitting there going, man, this could be the turning point for either team. And when I say that, because I think they both teams missed free throws, if I'm not mistaken. But if had any one of them would have hit one, it might have ended the game in regulation. And it might have ended the game where you go, oh man, it becomes a talking point. The only reason I'm bringing it up because despite the fact that is my talking point, neither team's allowed it to play a factor in the remainder of the game, especially going into overtime.
Well, I did have. I think I told Joe this. I had a pleasure interviewing actually one of the players from Westside Augusta this past weekend. He was actually playing in a tournament I was doing working at this weekend. I was shocked that he was actually there. I'm like, didn't y'all just win the state championship? He said, yeah, but you guys still playing basketball. He's back.
Hey, I was in Augusta this weekend too. They were back in the gym.
Yeah, they was back. So no, it was good to talk to him. He was very excited. I wish I remember his name. I got an interview. It'll be up on my YouTube channel.
Well, how you bringing up folks and can't use names now? Come on, man.
Hey, I'm telling you,
sound on the street now.
But his interview gonna be on my YouTube channel coming up this week. So check it out. But it was
so you gonna know his name then?
I remember it then, but yeah.
Make sure y'all subscribe to DT Unfiltered.
Now, hey, look, we can't talk about West Side Augusta game without talking about Amari Tillman, okay? 36 points, 50% from the field, highest scoring player on the boys' side this weekend, and he was shot for shot, short corner, off the dribble, left, elbow, pull up three. He was ready, and it was a point in the game. I think it was fourth quarter. He hit a little short corner jumper. And the broadcast, they didn't do a good job with hero shots and following the ball, but they hero shot in on him, and he was like, let's can go. And I said, oh, Amari about it. And nothing was going to stand in his way. And Jalix didn't try to steal it from Amari. And Kevon didn't try to steal it from him. Like, hey, do your thing, bro. We got you. And then here came Jalix in the back end, in overtime, impacting the game. Those are things that win you basketball games and impact games. And Tillman, I talked about him, but I didn't talk about him like I talked about Hewing and Moore. I like Hewing. Fonzo likes Moore. I know Moore can play. I like what Jalix does in transition and how he can change the game. Hey, I like the way Amari can say, all right, cool. You want a 16-footer? Boom. You want two dribble off the bounce with the defense and a little bump? I got that off the glass too. I like the little short corner. Okay, I can transition. Pop it. Let's go back the other way. He showed everything of his game in that game and then piled on a whole bunch of points and then piled on with good shooting percentage. Mr. Tillman, you make sure you continue to do that work. I'm watching.
And I'll say this. You talk about Tillman, Ewing, Hudson. That trio was exceptional.
I said more. I'm sorry. Hudson.
No, you're good. And
no, I'm not.
And I'm gonna counter with Samuel Thacker. Okay, Devin McClain.
He didn't shoot a 2-pointer. I got a problem with that.
He didn't shoot a 2-pointer. I don't listen. there are a lot of coaches who are listening, watching, pay attention, tweeting, who they love kids who are. I mean, there's so many coaches who so anti mid-range jump shot, but I'm not going to get into analytics about that.
Well, a high school 3-pointer is a mid-range jump shot.
No, that is true. That is true. But he shot the ball exceptionally well, and that young
Absolutely.
man has no reason to hang his head or wonder what he could have done more, because he did plenty.
Take his airspace away.
Excuse me?
Take his airspace away.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But they weren't able to get to it. They weren't able to get to it, and then the assassin of Devin McClain on the other side of him, because that's what I called him. I mean, Devin McClain was, man, I was just like, who is this kid? And he was shooting it. And again, I'm apologizing to Providence Christian Academy. I know I haven't had a chance to see you this year, but y'all shot the ball extremely well.
I told you they were good, dude.
No, listen, good is one thing. Good is one thing. Shooting the ball. I
told you the Spencer win. Open my eyes. I told you that.
But shooting the ball in an unfamiliar place,
man,
with the way they did,
that's a different breed of shooter.
That's the impressive part. Because again, they don't play in the biggest gym in the state, which I
West Side shot the ball just as well, though.
I understand that. So it's like, and then you look at the other games going, yo, why are they not shooting it as good as anybody else?
There you go.
As those other two guys. But regardless, they were able to do it. And again, hats off to Westside Augusta and them winning back-to-back. But Providence came down there and didn't bother to flinch. They handled the physicality. They handled the being pushed around. They handled the speed of the game. That a lot of times, that's what a team like Westside Augusta loves to thrive on. Being able to get out into the open floor, being able to get Hudson in transition, get you in transition, get Tillman in transition. But then when they had to play half-court set, man, they played it. Both teams played it. And again, both of them gave us a game that everyone, and I know Joel and I talked about it. We text each other about it. I was in several group chats with a number of people. It was an instant classic. I watched it again just because I wanted to see the purity of the game.
It was the best game that was played this weekend. But one of the things that I talked about, and you touched on it, but you know me, I do my research. They had 23 points off of turnovers. West Side. So 16 turnovers. West Side only turned the ball over 7 times.
Yep.
So when you shoot it at a good clip, when you don't turn it over, like West Side really showed me how complete of a basketball team they are. And it's not going to go unnoticed.
Absolutely.
And my thing to you, DT, is if the guys that are supposed to show up and the guys that are supposed to be good on both sides show up, what do you get?
A good game.
West Side Augusta and Providence. They did. Hats off to Coach Hunter and hats off to Coach Stacker, man. And I'm sorry, I was serious last week. I'm very serious. Look, Providence, just name it Thacker Gymnasium, and let's just keep it moving. Let's call it what it is.
Westside Augusta is back-to-back.
Back-to-back, yes. And that's Coach Hunter's third, and he won at Laney. They're back-to-back, and they're going to be in pretty good shape next. Listen, Augusta
I was just about to ask you that question.
Huh?
I was just about to ask you that question. Will they be back? Will they be in good shape next year?
Yeah. Enough 7A teams don't schedule them. Enough 6A teams don't schedule them enough. And there are some things that go on in Augusta, Richmond County that, so it makes it, there's good media there, very good media there, but there are some things that limit scheduling in that area. But stay tuned.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on to this 1A. D1.
Which one? 1A Division 1 or Division 2? Which
Division
one
one.
you going?
Division one. Division one.
Division 1?
Division one. We have Kings Ridge with 68 points versus Mount Pisgah with 58. Kingsmen walk out as state champions.
So DT, are you surprised by this?
No, 'cause no. Who did I pick?
Yep, you didn't know who you picked.
No, I picked. I picked Kings Ridge. I did. I picked Kings Ridge. I did pick Kings Ridge. So no, I'm not surprised because that's who I went.
You know what the better question I should have asked is, who do you know off each team? Because that's how you did your picks.
No, actually, no. I know of a player off Mount Pisgah, but I know the assistant coach from Mount Pisgah. So that's
who don't know the assistant coach at Mount Pisgah.
Person living on the rock don't. But. So, guys. So, Alfonso, I'm gonna let you start off. So, what you thought about this game? What's your rundown?
The rundown for me is having watched King Ridge over last year and saw a glimpse of them a little bit this year. I was impressed with the way they were able to clamp down defensively, and do the thing, because I'm a big proponent, and yes, this is an offensive basketball era. Call me old school, and I love me a defensive strategy, defensive dominance, and they took the chance to, enforce their will on them defensively. And one of those guys who I really enjoyed watching, who is a glue guy that every team needs. Honestly, there's not a team of any sport that's team sports related that couldn't use a glue guy. And Micah Hoover when I say he's a glue guy, it's like he does all the things, all the dirty work, rebounding, communicating, diving for loose balls. And he had a solid game against a quality Mount Pisgah team that, again, I knew with them two teams only playing earlier this year, both teams were going to be extremely different going into this final.
Yeah, you call that. You call that. I don't look at Mike as the glue guy, though, but he is. Mm-hmm. But you would have never told me that Hoover and Zach Thomas was going to combine for 49 points and be why they won it. But Hoover did what he had to do. Thomas fed off of it. And Isaac Martin just said, okay, you need a three. Okay, I'll pop this one. Okay, I'll go over there and I'll pop this one. And Cole was like, hey, you need this. And I knew Mount Pisgah was going to make a push, but it was different. And mm-hmm. Depending on which broadcast you watch, there were references to they've came back before. Nah, that wasn't happening on this night.
No, not at all. Not with Coach Martin on the sideline, which congratulations to him and
absolutely.
His son.
Indiana basketball, though.
No question. And having been into that region to watch basketball, not only is he prideful about it, it's a big thing for him and the conversation of him and his son winning one together, because those are rare moments that a father doesn't always get with their child, especially if they're coaching. You get the luxury and the blessing to be able to coach your kid, but to win a state championship with your child is one of them rare moments in life. And I'm glad that they were able to experience that and to hold, we go back to the shooting statistical things. The fact that
they shot it very well. They didn't shoot it as well as they did last year, but they shot it very well.
No, they did, but Mount Pisgah was 4 for 24. That was my counterpoint on that is, Kings Ridge shot it well. And like you mentioned, they didn't shoot it as well as they did last year, but different year, different calendar set, and different strategy that allowed them to bring home the trophy towel for Red area.
I think what Kings Ridge did that stood out to me, I mean, they shot it at 54%, but they got into their stuff early, often quick, and they were the aggressor. And once you become the aggressor, that's fine. And they needed an 8, 9, 10-point lead. Micah Tucker played very well, and he got them to 6. And then you know, there was some, you know. Wait, I'm on DT Unfiltered. Michael Tucker shouldn't have fouled out. But, you know, there were 2 bogus calls in there that, you know, let him play basketball. So he shouldn't have fouled out. But once he fouled out, you know, it was over. But Kings Ridge had they jumped out early, they set the tone, and then they stuck with it, and that's what I think attributed to them being able to hold off. They got enough of a cushion.
Absolutely.
Are y'all surprised with the score?
You know,
Okay.
No, it's right. It's right where it needed to be.
I mean,
If
it
you
wasn't
look-
a 5-point game or less, but you know, Kings Ridge, they had to do the Heisman. They had to keep them at arm's length, and 6, 7, 8 points. They had to make sure it was a 3-possession game as it got later in the game, and they did that. And they went through a little foul trouble as well. But once Micah Tucker fouled out, it was over.
All right,
Yes, it was.
gentlemen. So, real quick, let me jump back. So, do you see these 2 teams in conversation next year? Okay, to answer the question.
No, I'm
No,
deferring to him because
no.
it's to me, it's going to depend on what they do on the travel ball circuit, whether you talk about them or not. And
Look.
he, the travel ball guy, not me.
Well, not only that, it's certainly, and again, today everybody that's enrolled in school is there. Don't necessarily.
There's been some other enrollments today.
Correct. So it doesn't on both schools. So let's be clear. You know,
I
because
was talking about all schools. But,
well, I'm talking about this one particularly, but yes, you're correct. And these are situations that people have their own. I'll get into it. People talk about, private schools should have their own leagues or this and that because they're bringing kids. I always look at it sometimes. Listen, people are entitled to make the changes they want to change. Kids don't make decisions on where they want to go to schools. Parents
don't.
Parents do. And if a parent wants to go ahead and move their child, whether it's because of a job change or an opportunity to see their kid play under someone and possibly make a run at a state title, it is what it is. And and someone will sit there and be like, well, you've never had to experience. Actually, I have. So I'm, you're not talking to a person who doesn't know what it happens to a program when it does take place. All I know is, yes, today I could sit here and say both of those teams could have a shot at getting back because they have some quality pieces returning based on what you read on the roster and everything. But again, everything can change by the time October gets here.
I'm gonna say this as diplomatically and politically correct as I can. The Kings Ridge ain't getting back there next year, and it depends on Mount Pisgah has an opportunity. Kings Ridge will have to do a lot of work to get back there next year. And that's I'm gonna leave it at that.
All right, guys, we gonna finish with the last 1A Division 2. We have Wilkinson County 40 and Charlton County 36. This is one of the lowest scoring games of the state playoffs. State championship.
DT, this was the lowest score that either one of them had posted all season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, DC.
I was about to say, was that because of bad shooting, defense? Because you said
neither team shot the ball well.
Not at all.
But the game was poorly officiated.
Okay.
It was the worst officiated game. It was poorly officiated. It was a junky game. It was the most attended game, but it was the worst officiated game. And Charlton County hadn't been there before, and Wilkinson County did. So Wilkinson County kind of knew how to navigate it. But Charlton County is a very, very good basketball team, and I think they have a good future. I think we can talk them into playing games before December, hopefully. They've been invited a couple of places, so hopefully we can get them to play before December. But this game, look, I picked Charlton. Charlton was leading, but this was just a junky game. It was a poorly officiated game. The players weren't allowed to play, and it was the worst game of the state championships.
It was a struggle to watch, that's for sure, and it had nothing to do with the kids and both coaches.
Exactly.
It was a struggle to watch. There was no real fluidness, as was allowed, again, as we mentioned, Providence Christian and the West Side Augusta game. Different officials, and obviously officials coming from all over the state who are not familiar with their style, and maybe again, that played into a lot of those things. And I know it's not what you want to hear sometimes as a coach, but it's certainly. But I will say this: Wilkinson County, despite all that, willed their way to their 11th title in school history, and allowed them to really, again, represent the blue and gold as they're accustomed to. It's almost like it's back. The title is back to where it's accustomed to being. It's a community that is accustomed to being back year in and year out. I mean, they have 11 seniors, so they had the experience. There's not a kid in that program that hasn't heard or seen those, about those championships. And they came and wore that. Again, what I liked about those two schools and this game, as Joe mentioned, was the crowd attendance. The pride that was beaming out of that place, and it was coming through the screen when I was watching it. It was impressive because it was fun. Two counties that one was getting there for the first time. One is accustomed to being there, but hadn't been there in a while, hadn't won in a while, and they were able to get on the winning side for them. And as we talked about it last week, the player to watch that made an impact that certainly those who did not pay attention to him during the travel season, because we're watching other name brand affiliations. I happened to see the performance by a lot, and I'm always going to mess this up, so I apologize, Ellis Williams, that he had the performance of the weekend for a post player. And when I say it's an unknown post player interior, because look, 10
but he
points,
fouled out.
I get it. It's not his damn
garbage call. He fouled.
All right.
His fourth and fifth fouls were trash.
Okay, and it wasn't, again, he had 4 and 5 fouls, and he still ended up grabbing 20 rebounds with 6 blocks. So you're right, it's not his fault. He didn't give himself.
But what if he plays the last minute 45, bro?
Look,
that's an impact player getting jobbed by 2 bad officials in the end.
Look, if it was a fifth, we all be drunk. And all I'm saying is that he played an exceptional game, and that's what I'm looking to point out. Because
he did, and I'm not, and I agree. I'm sorry. His fourth and fifth foul frustrate me because not a foul count, but because of situation of time and score when they happen, and they were bogus
because they didn't have
bad calls.
They did not. Wilco did not have a real answer for him.
No, they did not have a real
man. And look, he certainly looked great in this championship game. He is a high prospect on the gridiron as a tight end, so he's gonna get everything he wants. That if he chose to just focus even on basketball, he would be an exceptional
set, bro.
He's set good, either way.
Man. We got to get him off the football field, man. Get off the football field, man. You can play basketball a whole lot longer.
Absolutely, but I will say this: that kid that young man played a solid game, and he left a lot of people who were unfamiliar with him going into this game, with the exception of yours truly. You know, he left a lot of them going like, yo, who is this kid?
I just don't like that he wasn't on the floor when the game was in the balance, and he got 2 bogus calls, and that, you know, I don't, like you say, I'm done. I'm done. I don't like the call. Let me just leave it at that. I'm done.
What?
But
I ain't trying to be funny, but was these the same refs who ref the Norcross game when Norcross lost? Sound like a familiar story.
They fortunately switched them out, but I don't know which pattern was which.
Yeah, nah, let me not get into that, DT. I know who the refs were.
I
Yeah.
think he's watching too. No, just
Hell, I don't care.
oh,
That was
man.
bad. That was bad. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one to say it.
Right.
There's been other people to say it, but I'm firm on his 4th and 5th foul. Look. When you go into a ball game, you got to know who the key players are. The 4th and 5th fouls have to be good fouls. They got to be fouls. His 4th and 5th fouls were bogus. I don't care about the angle of the ref or what he looked like. Stop calling stuff out of your zone.
Right.
Because see, nobody says that the ref made the call out of his zone. They just say from his angle. You know what? This was the reason why from his angle. That wasn't his zone. There were bad calls. That's just, you know, I'm probably one of the more vocal people. Just own up to it. It's bad. Like there was every key player in the state tournament that is highly ranked, highly recruited, or highly impactful. All of them had 2 fouls in the first quarter.
True.
Come on, man. Yeah, I don't. Okay, I'm done. I'm done.
So real quick, I want to ask y'all. I got a couple questions, and we're gonna reflect on the past season real quick. If you could, I'm gonna ask both of y'all to give y'all answer on it. If you could pick a matchup of 2 teams, no matter what class they are, that played in the state championship, who would y'all like to see play against each other? If I could choose any of the team that made it to the state championship, if you could say, okay, I would love to see this team versus this team.
So if we just had one championship in the entire state, regardless of classification.
Yeah, all the ones who made it.
Mm-hmm.
Between the state winners or just the ones that made it to the finals?
The one made it to the finals. If you had a choice, I mean, of course you're gonna pick the winners, but most likely, who would you have liked to see battle each other? I'm gonna tell you who I would like to see in a second. But.
Well, tell us. We always gotta go first.
Westside Augusta versus Wheeler.
Now, why is that? Like, no disrespect to Westside, and I'm gonna be out there a lot. I'm gonna be out there a lot this summer, but why is that? Like, you're gonna have to explain that.
Yeah, come on.
Okay, so I don't know the players as much as you. I'm looking at I would listen to how y'all was describing the game, and it seemed like it would have been a very competitive game if they battled each other, if they were the 2 teams, because it seemed like Westside Augusta is very. Why are you making that face, Joe? I don't like that.
Because Westside Augusta wasn't in the Hillsman Heavy Top 10 all year. And the Hillsman Heavy Top 10 comes out tomorrow, the final one.
Well, they was in the DT.
It's still a lot of cross-referencing going on. So, like, dude, Wheeler smokes with it.
And then plus they back-to-back champion. That's another reason why. So I would love to see that.
Hey, man. Hey, look. Wheeler smokes Westside. Okay?
Okay, well.
It's the basketball. Well, I like Westside. Westside could Westside compete in 7A? Absolutely. They're an Elite 18 in that Sweet 16. That was second round. I don't like that Sweet 16 when all you gotta do is win one game, but Second round, Elite 18. West Side is good.
So I'm gonna read
Against Wheeler.
I'm gonna read the Hillsman heavy top 10 tomorrow to see if they make Westside Ghsa made the final list.
Oh well, I already gave you a tease. Like that, there's more work to be done. The last spot is open to them and another team. It's two champs going for it, and I just got to, along with Fonzo and along with two college coaches, I have to figure out who's the better team overall. But yeah, but no, man, Wheeler.
Okay,
Wheeler,
well, give me yours.
Wheeler
Give me pick the two teams. Y'all tell me y'all two teams that if y'all could have a dream match of any team that made it to battle each other, who would y'all want to see?
Oh, Wheeler Kale. That's Hillsman heavy, lady. Wheeler Kale. That's the game I want to see. And I will pay top dollar for it. And it might even happen at Morehouse, and I'll find a way to get in there.
Oh, at that event, huh?
Yeah, at that event. Yeah, man, come on, man.
I mean, I've already secured a spot, but I was
Well,
just asking.
Well, I haven't though. You know, I've been getting denied a lot of places lately.
Dang. Well, maybe DT gets slipped in some of these locations too. But go
Well, that's what we do. But yeah, I know if I had to see a matchup that I really want to see, it would be Kel Wheeler. I want to see that. Wheeler wins, but you know,
I'm gonna step a little bit out because obviously I anticipated both of y'all picking Wheeler, and I at one point I would have considered it, but in all reality, I would have enjoyed to see Alexander versus Eagles Landing.
boy, bye.
I know. I mean, listen. Is both of those teams, if nothing else, they're gonna play relentless defense. And again, I'm not saying the other matchups won't. I just wasn't gonna go scratch and go.
You know what? I respect that, but yeah,
you know, I wasn't gonna go Wheeler Kell just like you did to be like scratch. Like, no, I'm gonna step a little bit outside of this box and go play in this sandbox by myself over here.
I like Alexander. I'm happy for Alexander, and Eagles landed smokes though, bro.
Hey, listen.
That's a 7-point win.
Yes, and you toss it up to play that game, so I agree.
But you know what? I would like to watch that game. I really would.
Yeah,
that's a good one. But yeah, I'm Wheeler Kale would be the game I want to see. And then you know what would be my second choice? Would be Wheeler Alexander.
That's actually was going to be one of my first choices in that sense.
Yeah. So good cut. Good shot. Hey, Alexander, y'all got a title. Don't worry about it. I just
Okay, so I'm gonna throw one more question out at y'all real quick.
You got it. What you got?
Who do y'all felt like was missing that had a bad game during the state playoffs that should have been playing in the championship?
I got two.
I know one of your two. I guarantee I know one of your two. I guarantee I know one of your two.
You guarantee you know one of my two?
Do you have the
two? And it begins with an E.
Do you have the numbers for Mega Millions too then?
Yeah. It begins with E. So you're talking about Etowah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would be one of your two.
Hey, they lost to Alexander. Etowah peed down their leg in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. I mean, there's no other way to kind of put it, bro. Like they peed down their leg. You don't blow an 8-point lead with a minute and 50-something seconds to go, and you go start doing all kind of different stuff in the last 2 minutes of the game. So, yeah, but I'm not saying that Alexander didn't do things to win the game, but Etowah was not one of my two teams. But good guess.
I would say because at the start of this entire journey, when everybody gets started with practice, everybody had anticipated Green Forest winning with what they had on their roster for the most part. And after watching them play against Grovetown, I was, again, this is because I knew nothing about Lee County. I was surprised Lanier didn't get to the championship game.
That's my selection.
That's all.
Lanier was mine.
My two teams were Grovetown, who lost to Lanier, and Green Forest was a good one, Fonzo. But my other team, I'm gonna have to stir the drink a little bit, and this is gonna be a very uncommon pick, but it is a direct pick. Christian Heritage, where were you?
Okay.
So Grovetown and Christian Heritage, those are my surprises. Yeah. I thought Grovetown was good enough to beat Lanier. Once Lanier won, they should have beat Lee and they didn't. And Lanier is well coached.
Mm-hmm.
Lanier, they just got to show me for me to believe it. And I'm sorry.
I understand that.
I just don't think Lanier does enough to be ready for the semifinals and finals. And I think they do a great job with their young men. I think they do a great job with their basketball acumen. They don't, in my opinion, I just need to see them in the semifinals and finals do it. And that's it. They do their game preparation, their scouting, their teaching, their development, their focus of basketball is very, very, very good. It's underrated.
Right. Absolutely.
They just don't have. They got the KILLE, and they just don't know how to find the R.
Okay.
Hey Jimmy, well, it was a great show. Got to recap the state championship games. Learned a lot. Shot down my dream match.
Wait, hold on. I forgot. What was your dream match again?
No, we ain't finna go there. You ain't finna rip me
West
apart.
Side of
that's right. Wheeling, yeah. But man, listen. Seriously. All seriousness. Wheeler did not lose to a Georgia team. And the 6 teams that beat them, 5 of them were in the top 15 nationally when they beat them, and 1 was still a very respectable team. When you are in a situation as though Wheeler was in, where your head coach can't coach, I'm going to listen. If there was any doubt about anything, when your head coach can't coach in the quarterfinals and semifinals, i.e. the Elite 8 or the Final 4, when he can't coach there, and your team looked a little different, but still stayed within the confines of the program, man, miss me with that, man. That to me showed me how good that program is, the stability, the foundation, the administrative support of it. Y'all, there are some people that can say I'm this, I'm that. It's just basketball, man. Wheeler was good. It was a race for second place in Georgia by everybody. It just was. They're just a better basketball team. And Fonzo knows. Give me a team, Fonzo. in Georgia that can beat Wheeler? Give it to me. Where is it at?
There isn't any. You would have to combine a lot of teams.
Yeah, that's the
You would have
only way to go. Wheeler.
you would have to combine a lot of teams. And I'm not. And again, I say this: Wheeler's just that good. I mean, you have the alpha dog in Isaiah Collier, who again is going to will his team to whatever possible victory he can, especially in the state of Georgia.
It's just the alpha dog, but it's chemistry, it's
Mhm.
practicing, it's coaching, it's film work, it's scheduling, it's pushing them to the limits. Oh, all they do is talk about Wheeler. They talk about the same teams all the time. Hey, pardon me. We talk about people that know how to win and worry about winning. We don't talk about participants.
Absolutely.
All right, Jimmy. Well, we're gonna wrap up the show right now. We almost at over 40 minutes. Not bad, not bad. Before we go, Alfonso, do you have any projects coming up anytime soon? Anything special coming up?
Well, it's going to be the start of travel season and showcase season going on. So, been to a few different things of that nature. Looking forward to seeing all these players with their respective travel programs and seeing what they do when beginning here shortly. The live period is here quickly, and I'm just concerned about this transfer portal for a lot of these high school kids as they look to get recruited in the class of 2023.
Don't forget about the transport portal for AAU teams because we.
Y'all are serious about that portal.
Well, I think somebody go. Well, I know some kids already told me they leaving their school, so know that much.
But okay, so some kids are leaving. Why are you talking about college or high school or AAU?
No, he's talking about
high school.
he's talking about high school.
Okay, so you already know some kids are leaving. What's the situation? Is it development? Is it
most kids, they want to go. No, it's most about going somewhere they could win at because they coming up to their last 2 years in school. So yeah, that's for the most part. They just
would you just, you don't have to name no names or name no school names. Do you feel like moving from said situation to another situation, wherever it is, do you think that's a good move because of the current situation or the past season situation?
I'm gonna be honest. One of the kids I know, I don't even know why he's transferring.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, it's not like he's something. I'm just man. He didn't really get no playing time where he was at, so I don't even know what he was really.
So that's why he's leaving. Then just say he ain't getting no playing time, but you don't think he should leave. But he's got to put in the work this summer, and then he's got to make sure he get the playing time. So that's what it is. So he leaving because of playing time. That's it. And I guarantee you, that's the last reason you should leave a school, playing time.
Oh, absolutely, it should be,
because that's the one thing a player can control.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They can control it by putting in time.
Yeah. Alfonso, let me ask you this, and I'm gonna ask DT this too. How much, Alfonso, do you feel the travel ball season coming up with individual players, specifically 17Us and 16Us, which is 24s and 25s, will affect the high school season next year?
A lot of it does affect, because two things that I always pay attention to is the number of players who do choose to bounce around during the travel season, from program to program for whatever reason. And sometimes sometimes it doesn't even matter when they do it. But I just want to see kids compete and be developed. A lot of times people are like, oh, they should just be playing. Okay, I'm okay with that. But if you're playing, make sure the reps are translatable for them to be able to play not only in high school, but certainly at the next level. And it's important when you're at 17 to be able to, with a program that's going to push you. A lot of people at 17U, parents, players alike, get upset that programs don't stick long enough with them. But then even when you're talking about 16Us in the class of 24 and 25s, these are guys who need to develop, need to be pushed, and understand that you got to play from the jump. You can't wait to say, hey, I'm going to get warm before I decide to play. So that's just some of the things that I look at and try to understand. But my glaring thing is, pick an organization, try to stick with it through the entire year, because the adversity you got to deal with your travel program is going to be adversity you're going to have to deal with at the collegiate level. So just know how to handle it and navigate through it.
I want to chime in on that real quick. When you said the key word, stick with, choose a program, stick with it, and I talk to a lot of middle school players, and one thing I tell them is, yeah, right now enjoy playing, but when you get to ninth grade, make sure you find a team and stick with that team at least ninth grade all the way for your next 3 years. You want to build that chemistry, that bond. You want to make sure you with the right team, because a lot of times I have seen, because I coached travel ball for many years since 2014. Last year last year was my last year coaching, and what I feel like is a lot of people talking in players' ear, telling them about this situation, and every situation ain't for you. Everybody want to run to this team and play this team because this team winning. But I tell everybody, like, if you go to a team and they've been together forever and they've been together for a while, and you run up because they winning, do you think that coach is going to put you in the starting lineup? Then you got 6, 7, or 8 who been there forever, so they're on rotation. So you jump on the team unless you just a true dog and you killing it. You ain't gonna get no playing time. You just being with a winning organization. And I had a
Okay.
kid. Go ahead.
So saying that, would you suggest that people stay away from the brand? The brand gets you to college, not your game. Is that what you're implying?
I'm saying your your game should get you there. You talking about like playing on like a circuit team? Or is that what you asking me?
No. I'm going to use the same thing that Alfonso said earlier, but I'm just asking you: is it because of what comes with other teams? Is that more attractive to some than others?
Yes. Like if like I'm getting prime example, and I'm not gonna mention this player name, but
Don't mention names. Just give the example. You can
no,
just say
I'm gonna
player
just,
A,
but
player B.
I was told that their father didn't care how much he played. He just wanted him on a winning team.
Okay,
And
well, okay. So if he, but I bet the father changed his tone when they were at Peace Jam, and that printout came up DNP CD. I bet it changed then.
well, a funny thing, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell y'all off air who it is. But yeah, it just like it's more to me. I feel like it's not.
Don't tease the on air audience like that. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you. But I feel like the it's just about feeling
Do you side with the father?
in that situation. No, because I feel like no, I don't. No, I didn't side. 'Cause I feel like you chasing a good team, and it's not, if it's not built around you or you're not getting on plans, you just happy to be on a winning team, a winning
Okay,
squad.
so that's why Alfonso on the right block right now, and I'm gonna bounce pass it to him, and he gonna score because he said earlier, it ain't the kids that's choosing the teams, bro.
Right. And I feel like when you get to high school, really, I think it should be 70% the player, 30% the parent. I think it should be more the kid because they know where they want to be at, where they want to play. They should be able to choose. Now, when you're younger, you in elementary school, you like 6, 7. Mostly it's your parent. But when you get older, I think it need to be a conversation had between parent and not just
That's
parents. I
perfect.
want to play with this.
After your sophomore year, I would agree with that.
I mean,
For
yeah, because I mean, if you're gonna say freshman, then I'm gonna just put it in real life perspective. You're gonna eventually get that child a car. You're gonna let them go get the Hellcat and not have experience, or you're gonna have them get into a car that's safer, that's more reliable, and that's gonna get them to where they need to be. You
But
know,
I
because
have seen
again, both of them are cars.
but you know what? I'm gonna say that I'm gonna be I have seen times when parents decide to take their child and put their child on this and say, we're gonna go play with this team because the coach told them, I'm gonna get your child a scholarship. I'm gonna get
Okay,
your child
well,
a
that's
scholarship.
the no.
Hold
Well,
on.
that's when you got to run the other direction.
Yeah,
And
you go the other way when that is the first sentence or the second sentence or the third sentence or the fourth
but,
sentence. You go the other way.
but the other thing is, all parents don't think like you. Because the first thing they go, oh, they say go get my son a scholarship. We're going to play for that team.
Okay, all right. All the other parents don't think like me.
No, yeah,
Then
no,
stop complaining about you got to take your kid to AAU and you got to do this and you got to do that and you talking to your girlfriend. Do your own research.
I'm gonna tell
Know
you,
what people do and go on.
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna say, only 10% of the parents out there actually think like y'all think. 10%.
Well, I don't expect a parent to think like me. All parents can't think like me and Alfonso.
Yeah, I mean, like when
But,
y'all say run the other direction. I say only 10% of parents gonna be like, okay, no.
okay,
90% of parents gonna hear that.
but here's the thing: if you're going to buy a car, and you know what, this car just came off, I got it off the showroom, I give it to you. Do you just immediately say, okay, boom, I got it? No, you go back, you go and you look at the Carfax, you look at the history of the car. Same difference. Oh, if your son come play with me, I'll get you a scholarship. Oh, okay, coach. Well, that's nice. That's nice. You know, what's your name? What? Then you go back and you do your research. If all it takes is I'll get you a scholarship, okay. Did the parent? I just drop them off and let them do what they do. Parents that drop their kids off and let them do what they do, they still are somewhat knowledgeable of how it works, or they're somewhat knowledgeable of he will do what he's able to do. Then you got some parents that they drop their kid off and they just want to say, oh yeah, he at this practice, he at such and such. They go get their nails done, they go get their hair cut. He at this practice. Yeah, he play for this team, honey. Oh yeah, bro, we play with over here. This is what we come on, man. But then when they go see the games, oh, why he ain't playing? Then you look at the structure of the offense, and then you.
I hear you. I hear you.
And I agree with that. I mean, like I said, it's being selective. Don't get caught in the shiny objects. You know, I mean, I get phone calls and texts prior to many of these teams being filled as of right now. People asking me, man, this program and that program. I'm like, listen, find the spot that works best for you, and make sure that it's something that you're able to do, something that you're able to see their development, how they're going to develop your child, how they're going to put a schedule together. If it's the live period and that program is not thinking about or scheduling playing in the live period, then why even bother to play with them? You know the answer to what you're looking for. You don't need me to tell you something. Okay. If they're not developing them, and when I say developing, okay, you know, travel coaches will sit there and be like, oh, we need more time with the kids in the gym. Listen, gym space is at a premium. And unfortunately, a lot of these schools, especially post-COVID, are not allowing a lot of programs in their gyms to do, to rent them out to go work out. So whatever time you have in there, make it as efficient as possible. But, practicing 3 and 4 times, it's not realistic for many travel programs. All right. But get in the work, make sure they get developed and do what they have to do. As a parent, you need to understand that because you're not going to, again, leave your infant child with someone who doesn't know how to do anything. So why would you leave your child who, yes, can walk and talk and chew gum and play a little bit of basketball and not put them in the best developmental situation that you can find that will also push them into competing and trying to win or teaching them how to win?
I 100% agree with that, Alfonso. But then you have some people where they only talk about the kids that they are involved with or know or train, and that kid is that good because I train them. So now you have others that come there. How do you adjudicate that from a parental standpoint?
I get that, but like again, this thing is that we're talking about is investment. You know, you have to invest in your child. You have, and there are plenty who do, you know, only promote a kid because it's who they've trained, right? I get that, or who they've coached personally. I understand that. But as I like to tell parents too, is find your homework, do your stuff, because not everybody's for everyone. So find someone else who, yeah, they may not be out there on the travel circuit promoting that kid, but if that kid is putting in the correct amount of work, the correct amount of development, and comes out to the game, irregardless of who is coaching and who's on that team, and they show what they're doing, again, in the short time that they're there, because what is confusing, and many of us are at fault, and I'll step up and say it, a lot of times people who are on this side end up only writing about the kid who scores. And that's why I try to not focus on that, because as we talked about even tonight, we had some stars from this past week who made a difference on their team and weren't double digit scorers. They were
Can I say
impactful
something
guys.
about that?
Sure.
It's hard to do that in AAU settings when everybody want to talk to you during games. It's hard. So
Absolutely.
scoring is the only thing, and it's still inaccurate. You can't get the field goal percentage. You can't get the assist to turnover ratio. You can't get that. And people use that to their advantage.
They certainly do. They certainly do.
And DT, you've coached AAU. I know we ain't got but 2 minutes left, but what is the thing that you tell a parent that is considering playing in your program, or what they may ask? Like, how do you handle that since you've been in that position and may possibly be a game?
Ain't no man, no, I ain't gonna be in that position again. I'm done with coaching. I retire. I hung up. I don't want to do it no more. I'm strictly media now.
So Fonzo, that's how we got to be the guest the last couple 2 weeks. I see now. I get it now. I get it. All right. So that means stakes around.
No, that's Absolutely. On you. You get money. I bet money over there. No, repeat the question again.
How would you handle it in the times that we are now, in making a decision and in informing a parent or dealing with a parent?
As far as like what we were talking about, team. Like
yes,
like how would I'm okay. I know we talked about a few things, so I want to make sure I want to answer the question correctly.
The question is, how do you deal with the parents, or how did you deal with the parents in the AAU setting when it came to feeling out your team and whether they would be able to help you or hurt you, or being directly saying thank you for coming, but I have someone else that's going to be able to fill this need? How did you handle that?
Okay, so this is a good question you asked me, because last year, as you know, I was coaching Zay Tobin, the producer. I was coaching his AAU team. So this was my first year, and since my last year, we had players on the team, and we cut them after the first tournament and let them go. And it was more of a conversation with me and Zay because certain people Zay felt like wasn't really okay. This not gonna help because you know anything about Zay Tobin, he played high school basketball in California. He was actually one of the top. He had pretty good athlete in high school. So he would watch the games and he'll come to me. He's like, "It's your team," but he's like, "Hey, we got to look at it because we started off pretty rough." So and I had to have that hard conversation. And see, when they get to when you're in 11th grade, I ain't having a conversation with mom and dad. I'm having a conversation with you. You're a big boy. I ain't calling mom and dad to tell mom and dad we ain't taking. I call you up, but it was hard for me because I never actually at that stage, had to talk to a player and cut him from the team because most of the time, you know, I I deal with what I got. I work around it, and like in the past, I had players that heard, like I told you, I'm gonna get you a scholarship, go to another team. Okay, cool. When a parent come tell me that, I'm like, okay, got you. I understand. Then when they leave, I'm gonna be honest with you. 95% of the parents or players try to come back. Your position not here no more. I'm done. Nope, I'm good. I tell them that all the time. Nah, I'm sorry. Somebody already took the position. It's filled. So because you run to a team and you feel like it's the bad situation, and because the coach told you this and told you that, now you want to come back. But this year, past year, like I said, it was my first year actually cutting players, so it was a really hard conversation. But I just tell them that, hey, unfortunately, you're not fitting on the squad, and I don't want to keep you on the team and not use you, and you sit on the bench and watch, and then you despise me, upset because I not playing you on the team. So I think it's probably other teams better for you, but playing here is not.
Fonzo, your response to that?
Ain't not bad. I've been there, and I'm just brutally honest. And unfortunately, sometimes that I've even asked parents, listen, I need you to not be a helicopter parent. I mean, again, some people may look at it as like, oh, you're being too direct. I'm like, well, how am I supposed to be? Because it's the only, I'm at least going to be direct and respectful. I'm not going to be direct and disrespectful, because at least we already know where I stand, you stand, your child stands. Now, if you give them to me at the start of this travel season, and by my desires, by the time they get to the end of the travel season, by all means, I want to see the development. I want to see the improvement. And DT, I'll even share with you, when I was in New York, I encouraged the travel team to take a kid from me because I knew that kid was that good. And my particular team at that time, I didn't have the resources to take that child somewhere. Okay. Even though I had the basketball knowledge, the basketball acumen, I have the resources that a travel team had. And the kid went from being with me to being able to spend the week in Vegas on someone else's dime. Okay. And he actually played. And you know what? He was coming off the bench and still averaging more points than the kids that they had on the roster the entire year.
Hmm.
And I laughed because I said, sometimes you guys get caught up in the wrong kids. But because that kid took a trust in me, we developed, and I kept telling them, don't worry about it. I'm going to get you on the sneaker team. And when they came and watched us, because they said, yo, I heard you got a guard. I was like, I'm not even going to tell you which one it is. Because to go to your point, DT and Joel, where you were saying, oh, if you work with a kid directly, I'm going to go promote him because I was like, no, let his game do the promoting.
Yes.
Let his ability do the promoting. That if he doesn't play
Yes.
well, guess what I'll tell him after the game when we're on the car ride back. Yo, we missed an opportunity for you to be seen by somebody. What do you mean, coach? So and so was here, whether it's a college, whether it's a team trying to take you from me, whatever the case may be. And one thing I I hate when people say this, especially young people. Oh man, you should have told me. No, you got to perform every time. You got to perform every time. And that's where if we're not realistic with these kids like that, that's why we have the issues that we have, whether it's transferring high schools, whether it's transferring travel teams, or whether it's transferring in the collegiate portal. These are the things that we have, and those are the things that all correlate one way or the other.
I think that's an outstanding point, Alfonso. I'm not against transferring in high school. I'm against people that are selective about the transfers that they talk
Sure,
about.
sure. No, I agree.
AAU is going to be one thing. You're going to expect people to bounce around, but sometimes the media has to hold a standard and stick by it. And sometimes there are those in the media that, I like me. Y'all are not gonna see me tweeting about the AAU portal. It's always been a portal. Oh, it's just tongue in cheek.
Absolutely.
It's just a joke.
Absolutely.
No, it ain't. No, it's not. It's always been happening. There's nothing that is this. So I saw in North Carolina now there's a travel team making them sign contracts, and somebody laughed, and I don't have a problem with that. They've been doing it in Europe since they were 13. And you wonder why Ricky Rubio been getting paid since he was 13, and you wonder why Jokic over here kicking y'all ass because he been playing pro for 13. But you're gonna tweet about they making them sign contracts. Dude, the scholastic system in America ain't the only way to play ball.
I'm gonna tell you this.
Absolutely.
I didn't make my players sign. It was in a contract. Well, actually, it was. I made my players and parents sign a player-parent contract because after one season, I'm gonna tell you real quick. I had one season when I had parents being disrespectful, talking much BS up in the crowd. About they were talking. They said smart comments about me. They were talking about my other coaches on the other team, and I had parents from the other team come up to me like, "I am so sorry that you're dealing with that." Blah blah blah. And so at that stage, I was at that stage getting, oh, y'all got to go. Well, you gonna give us our money back because you can't tell us we got to go. Blah blah blah. You got no rule. So I said, oh, so that's what we're doing. So after that season, I brought a parent-player contract that states that if you are disruptive, disrespectful, talking it's like a 2-page thing. Read through it because I can kick you off my team. There's no refund on your money. I would tell my parents. I say, if you want to play the team, you must sign this.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that because you're looking at it from the parental standpoint or whatnot. My thing is what the analogy I use. People were making a mockery of it, but they've been doing it in Europe for years. It's nothing new. And that was my whole point in that. But a lot of trainers, AAU people, a lot of adults feel that I can't use that word. 2 years ago, I could use the word. They just feel that there are certain people that they are vested in that means more, and you come and you go. Like if you're about the basketball, hey, look, I'm only keeping 10 kids, okay? I'm only keeping 10 young men. These are the 10 young men. Hey, thank you very much. And rock with them 10. When you walk in with 15 on your AAU team, that's a problem. Keeping 10 is okay because then you can 5-on-5 in practice. More than 10 in AAU, they say, well, there's too many AAU teams. It's watered down. No, it's not. Anybody can have an AAU team. If I get this, I get that. But now what it is, oh, I don't want to play them, or what coach going to be there, or this coach going to be there. People don't want to play their way to the spotlight anymore. They want the spotlight already there. And if I'm not trying to offend anybody, I'm just saying, like, from a basketball standpoint, since the kids are not playing as much pickup and as much blacktop, if you lose on the pickup court, you lose on the blacktop, that might be a 30, 45-minute wait. Kids don't want to wait that long anymore. So challenge them to figure out how can they play 2 or 3 games without having to wait 15, 30 minutes. Because now they got Instagram, they got TikTok, they can do this, and we can go over here. 5 minutes is a big deal now.
Right.
That's all.
Let's wrap up the show real quick. I think Alfonso told me what he got going on. How about you, Joe? What you got going on?
Oh man, I'm gonna be in the gym, man. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a different AAU and a different summer, and hopefully I will still be able to provide the things that I provide the way I provide it, just basketball. I mean, I just want people to know I'm just basketball. That's just it. I'm a basketball purist. There are a lot of people who are not. I am. And I'm just basketball. So at Jay Hillsman, Hillsman Heavy top 10 final will come out. And I'm gonna be in a lot of gyms, going up to DC, gonna be in some gyms in DC, going down to Florida, we'll be in some Florida gyms, we'll be in some Georgia gyms, and on a microphone or two here or there. And I'm gonna just keep doing what I do, but it's just basketball. Don't be offended. It's just basketball.
All right. And Alfonso, if you want to repeat what you got going on.
Just watching some showcases, and actually I'll be coaching a travel team, middle school.
What? Yes. Hey, DT, look, let's show up and let's provide critical remarks to this coaching.
Yes, I'm down. Let us know.
Just remember, I'm not gonna do that because he's gonna give us all New York answers. So it doesn't matter what you ask us. We're gonna get the real answer. And then when he don't want to cuss, he's gonna look at us and be like, okay. But I will be there with you. I want to see that.
May I ask what's the name of the team?
Team EYE.
Okay.
Earn your elite.
Okay, cool. I gotta make sure you send me the schedule. I come check y'all out and stuff.
Absolutely.
DT don't put you in.
And listen, I'm not even worried about it, because here's the one thing, the harsh reality to a lot of my kids that I've already explained to them is this: if you're here to strictly just, and I've told parents this, if you're here to strictly where I just babysit you and you don't expect to be pushed, I'm not the coach. You can go somewhere else. I'm okay with that. And so my thing is this: if you want your kid to develop, you want your kid to be pushed, you want your kid to be challenged. And when I say challenge, I make them. I've had about 2.5 weeks worth of practice. I make them understand, like, if a new kid comes in, whether they've missed practice or whatever, for whatever reason, being sick or whatever the case may be, and we're jumping on a drill and the new kid's in front, I hold the other kids that have been there accountable. Because I'm like, yo, how you going to let the new kid get in front of you, or the kid who's been out get in front of you, when you're the one that knows the drill? Stop being selfish. Stop being stop trying to be like, oh, you don't want to make a mistake. No, you show them that, yo, if you make the mistake, this is where we make it. And sometimes that's what it takes. And you know what? I can say this, and let me knock on this wood right here. These parents have been receptive about it. And that's just something that I'm, again, they want to see their kids develop and be able to compete when they get to the high school level.
Yeah. I mean, it's different. I respect what Alfonso does, and DC, what you do as well. And it was just good to come on here and talk about the Final Four and the state finals. And I make a lot of jokes, and I use a lot of puns, and I use a lot of innuendo. But at the end of the day, I'm just about the basketball. And sometimes you have to be able to have the conversations, whether they're positive, negative, or whatever. You just have to be able to understand that, just because a situation isn't right, and just because it might not have limelight and flair, doesn't mean that your kid is not going to prosper, or your young man is not going to prosper. That does not mean that. If you're playing the game of basketball for that, you're playing for the wrong reason. Because your game, what you do between the lines against equal or greater competition, the work you put in, how you develop when you play against equal or greater competition, will show between the lines. And that's what gets you noticed. Just because, hey, man, I got a homeboy over here and he do this, it goes on. And people talk about basketball and exposure. Well, exposure goes both ways, and coverage goes both ways. So you can't ask for just good and then get mad when somebody, well, a few give you bad, but you know, that's just kind of what it is. It's just the basketball. That's all. Because there are 452 schools. We got 8 state champs. Off of these 8 state championship teams alone, Fonzo, how many? We got 2 NBA guys, maybe 3, maybe 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, gentlemen, like I said, I really appreciate y'all being on the show.
We appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely.
Real
Appreciate
quick,
you.
I'll let everybody know real quick this Friday. Actually, I'm going to be at an event. I'm going to be at a speed dating event. I'm going to be actually I'm a special guest. They invited me out.
Oh, I thought you was going to be involved.
No.
I was ready to show up for that. Now, I would have showed up for that. I ain't going to lie to you. I would have been like this. Let's go ahead. I would have live tweeted everything.
Man.
I would have live tweeted everything, and it would have been fantastic. Man, I'm glad you said that first.
I know we at the end of the show, the wrap up show, but I did not expect to hear that.
Nah, I have a friend. Not a friend. She actually.
Fonzo, you finna say too much.
No.
She's talk too much.
No. She's a media influencer. And she actually invited me out because she wants.
Okay, what the hell is a media influencer?
She does a lot of influence. She do a lot of shows. She do a lot of speed dating. She got her own podcast program and everything. So she invited me out to come see her platform because she wants to do a couple of events. Want to host a couple of events with me in the future. So she want me to view what she does. So I'm coming out to check out the speed dating. It's this Friday. It's downtown Atlanta from 6 to 9 p.m. So if anybody interested, anybody that does single, y'all trying to come to a speed dating, go to my Instagram. It's on my Instagram page, DT.
Hey, Fonzo.
Yes.
Fonzo.
I'm gonna put it on my Twitter too, so y'all can be able to check it on Twitter. So if y'all interested, come down there.
You know what I got? You know I got to get him right.
Of course.
You know I got to get him. If there's anybody at this speed dating thing on Friday night, they're not watching the NCAA tournament. Like they just.
Man, it could be some beautiful.
I'm messing with you, man. That's just that. Look, I told you it's just basketball with me.
It could be some beautiful women down there. So these men.
Hey.
All right, so it'll be on my Twitter. So if y'all interested, click the link. Show up. I'll be there,
brother. Hey, you know what? I really want to know how that's gonna go. I want to know. I'll be watching March Madness though.
I got to fill out my bracket on Wednesday too, by the way. So
on Wednesday,
yeah, because we're doing it off. I wait till after the the little.
Oh, y'all don't count the first 4.
We normally do, but this year I told everybody we're not doing that. We're gonna wait till they finish. So
but it's going to 90 teams in 2 years. So get ready.
Good God Almighty.
Yeah. Appreciate you, man. Fonzo, appreciate you.
This your boy DT. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, DT_unfiltered uncensored. Click the link in my bio. That will take you to all my platform, my Twitch account, my Twitter, Facebook, everything. Follow me. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, and you will see me soon because I got to do a show on the previews to the NBA playoffs. So we definitely doing one of them upcoming soon. And Joe, I need you on that show.
I was about to say,
I'll be there. I'm very worse right now. I'm ready. I gotta catch up. Yeah.
So do you watch NBA?
Absolutely, I do.
Okay, can I get you on that show too?
Absolutely, you can.
Okay, so go be you two and two of my partners, and then we can talk about
NBA playoffs. Because I watch NBA regular season in November, unlike other people.
Oh, I do too. So we watch a year round.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I
appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate y'all. I'll see
care.
y'all next time.
Absolutely.
It's DT. You have just now listened to the most talked about podcast in the country. DT, unfiltered, uncensored. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next time. Damn. DT.